Happy New Year, everyone. And to celebrate that it's now the next decade, I'm going to be talking about all the movies that I saw in the last year, 2019. Not every movie I watched, but every movie I saw in theaters, every new movie I saw in theaters, so, you know. So I'm going to do kind of like a ranking from like worst to best. There's 9 of them. I saw only 9 movies in theaters last year. Wow, big shocker. I know, because like the year before that, it was like 21, 22, something like that. I have a video talking about it from last year somewhere. I don't know. So yeah, you can check that out if you want. But yeah, so I'm just going to rank them. And that's it. And talk about some thoughts. These are like 100% not scripted thoughts. Like I was just like, yeah, this is what I'm thinking. So I guess we'll start with the bottom of the list. And at the bottom of the list, my least favorite movie I saw in theaters in this past year was Captain Marvel. Yeah, I saw Captain Marvel because I see every single movie with the Marvel logo on it. So, Captain Marvel is probably one of, if not my least favorite Marvel movies in the MCU so far. I don't know. I'd have to watch a lot of the older ones again. Because, like, Thor 2, I don't remember being that great. Even Thor 1 was okay. Not amazing. Like, so, like, Iron Man 2. Like, who even remembers what Iron Man 2 was about? I don't know. I actually do remember what it was about. That was a stupid thing for me to say. But anyways, so Captain Marvel is kind of boring overall. It just felt like a boring, bland, average Marvel movie. And the main thing, like, it had some fun jokes and stuff in it, I guess. Like, the young Nick Fury was fine. But, like, the character of Captain Marvel is way too underdeveloped and uninteresting. She's just written in a way where, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what her character is. Like, it's just not a very well-defined character. A lot of the other origin movies for the other characters were better. This is probably the worst of the origin story movies. Except maybe Thor. I don't remember how good Thor was. Oh, no, Incredible Hulk. That one might be the worst. That's right. I remember that. I forgot that movie existed. But, you know, again, those movies I haven't seen in forever, so I don't know. The Skrull thing was kind of cool, although I don't think they were utilized that well. I really hope they, you know, utilize the Skrulls in a more interesting way in the future. There's this whole thing in, like, the comics and in one of the cartoon shows where the Skrulls, like, try to invade Earth by slowly kidnapping humans and replacing them by turning into them. Like, they spent years studying them so they could, like, pretend to be the person and nobody would notice. And they're, like, infiltrating Earth without anybody noticing. And then the Avengers find out about it, but they don't know, like, who's a Skrull, so they can't trust each other. Because, like, you might be one of the Skrulls. No, you might be one of the Skrulls. I don't know. And it's, like, interesting. It's kind of like, that whole, like, storyline reminded me kind of like the movie The Thing, if you've ever seen that, from 1980 something. I don't remember, 1982 maybe, whatever. I talked about that in a video once, actually, a Halloween video I did, like, not this year, last year, but like 2018, if you want to see that video. But yeah, that's an interesting thing, but the Skrulls are just kind of here in this movie. I feel like there's not a lot interesting done with them. There's really not a lot interesting done in this movie. Like, I enjoyed it okay when I saw it, but at this point, like, I've pretty much forgotten it. Like, Captain Marvel's my least favorite of the Avengers. She's boring. I don't care about her character. Maybe she'll be more interesting in future movies. I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah, so next down on the list, the number 8 on the list, because I saw 9 movies. Wow. Number 8 on the list of my ranking of the 2019 movies I saw is The Lego Movie 2. The second part, I think, is what it's called. I don't know. I freaking love the first Lego movie. Okay, it's legitimately one of my favorite animated movies of all time. Like, it's just a really fresh new idea, and it's presented in a really fun way. It's a movie that could easily just be come across as like a giant commercial for Legos. I mean, it is, but it's also interesting and fun and has some heart to it as well. And it's just really well directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and they didn't direct this one. And it fails for it. It's a huge downgrade from the first one. A lot of people really liked it. I didn't care for it at all. They kind of turned it into a musical, which is a weird idea because like the first one's not a musical, so it was just kind of weird. That isn't necessarily a bad thing in and of itself, but like none of the songs were memorable to me. Honestly, they were mostly annoying. Like they tried to do this newer version of Everything is Awesome called Everything's Not Awesome, and it just kind of fell flat for me. Really, all the comedy fell flat. Like I don't remember a single thing. This one's does not have nearly the same like perfect comedic timing as the first one. I do not remember a single joke from this movie, except for like the parts where Bruce Willis showed up. I remember that. Like, and the joke was that it's that he's supposed to be. Oh no, it wasn't Bruce Willis. It was well, no, it was, but he was like pretending to be the guy from Die Hard. John McClane, yeah, that's his name. And that was supposed to be funny. Like, oh, haha, I know that movie. I've seen Die Hard. Ha, that's funny. That's the only joke I remember. It wasn't even that funny. So, characters are weird. They overdo like the whole like naming things weird thing, you know. In the first one you had things like the Craggle and stuff where it's like a real life thing and it's really named this, but they say it in a weird way, like, oh, the polish remover of Nail. It was like nail polish remover. They were just little throwaway jokes. This one you have things like the Armageddon. That was, I don't know, I don't know, and like this is down to personal preference, I guess, but I felt like they just went overboard with a lot of that ridiculousness. The twist that the one guy is like is Emmett from the future was obvious to me. Like he literally has the same voice actor. I could tell that it was Chris Pratt voicing him. So I was like, yeah, it's the same voice. It's going to be like another version of him, probably from the future. Oh, look at that. I was right. Wow. Yeah, I don't remember this movie at all. The Lego movie was extremely memorable from the first time I saw it. This movie, I don't even care. I don't even care to see it again. Batman flosses in it. That's a thing that happened. Enough said right there, actually. Yeah, moving on. So, number 7th best out of all 9 of them. Number 7 on this list is Frozen 2. So, I saw Frozen 2. I wasn't going to see it, but then, like, my girlfriend's brother and his one friend were going to see it, and, like, I was like, yeah, I'll go with y'all to see it for fine. So I went with her, my girlfriend, and her brother and his friend, and it was just meant to see it. So, like, I literally saw the first Frozen movie that same day because I'd never seen Frozen before until this day that I decided. So I watched both of them in the same movie. Watched Frozen 1 on Disney+, then watched Frozen 2 that night. Personally, I don't really care for, like, they were enjoyable enough, and I like the characters of Anna and Kristoff. They're really the only characters I really like all that much. All the other characters are just kind of throwaway characters that I don't really care about. I liked them in the first one a lot, and their like relationship. The second one, not as much. I don't know. Overall, I don't really think I have a preference for which one I like better, 1 or 2. They both just kind of bleed together for me. Maybe because I saw both of them in the same day for the first time. That's probably why, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. I thought it was enjoyable enough, but it's not the type of movie I would want to see again. Like, I saw it once, and I was like, okay, probably never see it again. It was enjoyable enough. It's nowhere near as good as some of the, like, real classic Disney animated movies. like some of the other ones, like classic Disney animated movies, especially from like the Disney Renaissance era and everything, like those are like timeless classics that I will probably want to rewatch many times in the future. The Frozen movies are not that. So I never so like I don't understand why the movies were hyped up as much as they were, or the first movie anyways was hyped up as much as it was when it first came out. I don't think Frozen 2 is quite as hyped up. Everybody was raving over it, and I watched it, and I was like, it's okay. I hate Olaf. Olaf is the Jar Jar Binks of Frozen. He's the character that's there for comedy relief and nothing else. He doesn't do anything other than comedy relief. You could cut him out of the movie, and all it would do is save you from dumb, terrible jokes. His song in the first movie and the second movie is literally pointless to the movie. It adds nothing to the movie. It's clearly there for comedy relief. I hate when movies add characters like that, because you should be able to have comedy like naturally come out of like character interactions rather than just, here's a character who's there to spit out funny dialogue. Haha. There's the funny dialogue machine over there. It's disgusting. I hate it. Moving on. But yeah, overall the movie's okay. It was enjoyable enough. Kids will love it. Okay, moving on. Toy Story 4. I like Toy Story 4. I don't love it. It's my least favorite Toy Story movie, but I like it. I was very skeptical when they announced that they were doing Toy Story 4, because I was like, Toy Story is a perfect trilogy. Don't ruin it by adding a fourth movie. Then it's not a trilogy anymore. It had a perfect ending. What are you doing? I love the Toy Story movies. It's the only it's like the only perfect trilogy that Pixar has. Probably will be the only perfect trilogy that Pixar will ever have. I mean, the only other trilogy they have right now is Cars, and we all know how that went. And like Incredibles, maybe it'll be a trilogy one day. I don't know. Maybe they'll do a Nemo trilogy. But, you know, to be honest, the second sequels to those movies weren't that great anyway. So yeah, Toy Story is probably going to be the only like really great trilogy that Pixar will ever have. And they kind of just throw out a fourth one. Like, yeah, it's not a trilogy anymore. Guys, look at this. Here's Toy Story 4. So I was always a little skeptical of it because of that. So, but yeah, it's different than the other ones. Like, they try something different with it. So, and try to expand the Toy Story lore and Toy Story world, and expand on the idea of living toys. And they do a decent job at expanding it, rather than just kind of telling a Toy Story story that we've already seen before and not really adding anything. So, how do I think about the ending? Spoiler alert of like Woody leaving the group and everything to be with Bo Peep. I think it's fine. I mean, I guess he like served his purpose. I don't know. I'm not as attached to him to the point where I'm like sad over it. I didn't cry like other people did, but I see how people could be affected by it. A lot of people love these movies. I mean, I personally love these movies. You know, the first Toy Story movie is historically a huge movie, right? It's the first fully CGI animated feature-length movie. It's a big staple in movie history. So I understand why people would be upset over these kinds of things. But yeah, it was good. I liked it. I don't really have a lot more to say about it. I don't remember a lot of details about it. I just remember that I liked it enough. Not as good as the other Toy Story movies. So there you go. Next up, number 5 on the list, we have Rise of Skywalker. Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. Some people will probably be furious that I put it higher than Toy Story 4, because a lot of people hated this movie. Personally, I don't really think it's a good movie, if I'm being completely honest. Clearly, it was just Disney trying to damage control the disaster of the other two movies. And by disaster, I don't necessarily think those movies were a complete disaster. I just think more or less Disney was reacting to the reaction of fans from the last two movies and trying to figure out how to throw something together. And it ends up being this kind of movie that's kind of a big mess. But at the end of the day, it's a really fun mess. Like, I enjoyed watching it a lot. I only saw it once so far. So I maybe if I watch it again, I'll hate it. I don't know. But like, some of the decisions that were made weren't the best for like the choice of where the story goes. Some of the things in it are really weird and dumb. And yes, there's a lot of stuff in one movie, and it feels a little bit all over the place. But again, like I said, it's a mess, but it's a fun mess. I really enjoyed it despite all of its flaws. I acknowledge those flaws, but I loved it for what it was anyways. To be honest, I wasn't expecting much from the movie, so maybe my expectations were so low that I was surprised, I guess, probably is why I loved it as much as I did. I mean, I made a video titled, I Loved Rise of Skywalker, and by that I don't mean I thought it was like a perfect movie or anything. By that statement, I meant I personally just really enjoyed watching it, and that's it. I don't know. I have a whole video talking about it if you want to see that. Whatever. Next up, number 4, is Joker. I really like Joker. I was originally would have put Joker higher on the list, but like I did start to realize that Joker in a way is somewhat a copy of like older movies. The story and everything is like in a way is kind of like copying 2 specific Scorsese movies, that being Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, I believe, are the 2. If I'm getting those titles right. I've never seen them. But I started to watch other people's videos out, and I'm like, yeah, and I started to see a lot of the things that I'm like, okay. So it's kind of like, it's not as original as it seemed when I first saw it. When it comes to superhero movies, though, it's pretty original. Like, it's nothing like any other superhero movie I've seen. So I will give it that. And the performance of Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker was great. I loved his acting. He played the character very well. So I have to give it props for that. I think that's the best part of the movie, honestly, is his performance. And I guess like it was shot well, and music was good and used well. So it was a really interesting movie to watch. It was just interesting psychological kind of movie. You get into the character's head and all that good stuff. And I enjoy movies like that. And it's tragic. Tragic movies are nice sometimes. I know that sounds weird, like, oh, yay, a fun, tragic movie, woo! Like, no, what I mean is, like, sometimes it's refreshing, because you constantly see movies with perfect, amazing, happy endings, and all the main characters are great people, and it's nice to see a movie that doesn't do that, so I guess that's fine, and Joker's an iconic character and all of that, and I don't think this is, like, a good definitive origin for the Joker, because it's not. The Joker's a character who usually doesn't have an origin, and you're supposed to just kind of guess what his origin is and fill in the blank, like, oh, here's what I think his origin could be, well, here's what nobody knows. It's like, he's one of those characters. So it is weird to make a movie like this, but this isn't like the official origin of the Joker. This is more or less, I see this movie as like this is a possible Joker origin of this version of the Joker, or whatever, and there's other versions of the Joker, so that doesn't really, whatever. Anyways, and then next up above that, starts coming the movies that I like really, really loved. I mean, I really loved Joker, actually, so I guess that's kind of the start of that. But anyways, next up, Spider-Man Far From Home, number 3, yeah. So I really liked this movie. I loved it as a sequel to the other Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Homecoming, that's what it's called. And kind of a sequel to Endgame, I guess. It deals with, Peter's being affected by the whole snap thing happening, and Endgame, and Tony dying, and spoiler alert for Endgame. Yeah, there's spoilers in this whole video, just realize that. The snap and Tony dying, he deals with all that. And I like the villain a lot. Played by Jake Gyllenhaal. He was a good villain. He was a good, fun, interesting villain. Both of these Spider-Man movies have given us good villains. Marvel used to have this problem where all of their villains just sucked. Like, in the first, 2 phases of Marvel, every single villain sucked except for Loki. And the reason why the movies were so great was because the main characters were great. The heroes were great. The hero characters were really well written, good characters. But the villains sucked. Phase 3 came around and Marvel was like, oh, we're going to start fixing our villain problem. And we started to actually get some good villains in Phase 3. And it's been continuing with some pretty decent villains. I wouldn't say all since then have been good, but like, this is a good one. So is the other Spider-Man movie. Spider-Man Homecoming, that's what it's called. I just think both of the villains in both of these Spider-Man movies kind of have a similar type of background. Like, they were both affected by Tony Stark in some sort of negative way, and it led them to some villainous past and villainous path in life because of they're oppressed by the big rich people of Tony Stark and all that. So I like that idea because that's a side of Marvel that isn't explored literally like anywhere else except for these two Spider-Man movies, and I think it's done well in this. And there's a really cool like scene dream scene thing because Mysterio can like create images, and where Spider-Man's falling through all these images and he doesn't know what's real and it's hard to figure it out and wow, what's going on. That's a really cool scene, probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie. So yeah, those are kind of the main things I liked about the movie. I just really enjoyed it. They're fun, well-written movies. I like the high school version of Peter Parker. It's good. So, moving on. Number 2. Sorry, by the way, if it seems like I'm just rambling and I have no really focus of what I'm saying. It's because I don't. I just wrote a list on my phone of the movies, pressed record on my camera, and started talking. So, who knows what this is going to turn out to be. Number 2, Avengers Endgame. Yeah, of course this is up there really high. This is like one of the biggest, most anticipated movies of the year. It is the most anticipated movie of the year. Who wasn't anticipating this movie? Everyone and their grandma was anticipating this movie. Like, your dead relatives were in their graves anticipating this movie, okay? Everyone was anticipating this movie. The finale to the big Thanos Infinity Saga thing going on in the Marvel Universe. And it gave a lot of great finales to characters and storylines, and it just has finale written all over it. It's just great. Who doesn't love this movie? I think the movie is a little bit messy in terms of pacing and stuff. Like, everybody makes these complaints and how the time travel is weird and whatever. But, like, if you ignore those issues and just look at the characters and the development of the characters and finishing the characters who were done, like Captain America and Iron Man specifically, and I guess Black Widow. I mean, we're getting a Black Widow movie which is about her before Avengers and stuff, so whatever, I guess. But yeah, you know, all those characters are getting good send-offs for characters. I don't know, Black Widow's send-off was okay, but I mean, she was never one of the best characters anyways. But Captain America and Iron Man, I think Captain America gets a pretty good send-off. Iron Man gets the best send-off, though. This is the perfect send-off for the character, and he had to have a good send-off. He's the one who started the MCU, so he had to have this great send-off. I love that he you know, last thing he says is like, well, not last thing, because he was alive talking to people a little bit before he died, but whatever. You know, I love how he ends by saying, I am Iron Man, the same line that he ended his first movie on, like, oh, that's what we started the universe with, and that's what we're going to end it with. I mean, obviously the series is continuing, so it's not like this is the end of the MCU, but it's the end of this chapter of the MCU. So, you know. Yeah, I think it did a good job of finalizing a lot of things, and it was an emotional roller coaster. And the moment when Captain America and Thor and Iron Man were fighting Thanos together was awesome. Captain America grabbed the hammer, and then the scene where Captain America's standing alone, his shield broken against an entire army, and you're like, yeah, Captain America, you're awesome. And then all of a sudden, all the other heroes come in. And that moment when all the other heroes came in and Captain America, like, right before he said, like, Avengers, assemble. That moment was so powerful to me in the theater that I was legitimately crying tears of joy while that was happening. I did not think that it was possible for a movie to make me cry tears of joy until I saw this movie. So emotionally was effective to me. So there you go. Anyways, I was going to review this movie when it came out, but I didn't because I just didn't feel like it. I don't know. You may have noticed I went like an entire year without doing a single like new movie review of like a movie that's in theaters or anything. I went an entire year from like Bohemian Rhapsody was the last new movie that I reviewed. And then from then I didn't review a new movie until the next year for Rise of Skywalker when I reviewed that. Interesting, I know. So yeah, number one, can you guess it? What could be better than Endgame? Endgame is the highest grossing movie of all time. Everybody loved Endgame. Everybody was anticipating Endgame. What could be better? So far, everything I mentioned, I believe, I can look at here. Okay, so far everything I mentioned is either part of a franchise or based on a comic book, because I was going to say all were part of a franchise, but Joker technically isn't part of a franchise, because I don't think it falls in line with the DC extended universe, at least I hope it doesn't. It just doesn't fit with any of that. I mean, that universe is screwed up anyways. Hopefully it'll I think they're starting to fix it. I don't know. But anyways, what could be better? This is a movie that is not part of a franchise. It's not based on anything in particular. It's a completely new, original story. Directed by the man who directed The Last Jedi. The most divisive Star Wars movie of all time. So some people out there who hated that movie might be thinking, what could he possibly direct that's good? Well, guess what? The man is a good director. He just didn't do great with Star Wars. I mean, I personally think there are some good things about that movie. Just saying. Some bad things, some good things. I actually have a review of that on my channel, too. Anyways, it is, of course, Knives Out. Yes, I bet you weren't expecting this. I'm naming off all these franchise movies, these movies that are part of studios that I love, and all these things, big superheroes and stuff, the big movies that everyone saw. And now I'm suddenly naming this random, not part of a franchise, standalone, one-off movie about murder mystery. Where did that come from? Well, I saw it. I saw trailers for it in theaters, and I was intrigued. And one day, I was with my girlfriend and her one friend, and we were like, hey, let's go see Knives Out. It looks good. Okay, sure. So we went to see Knives Out. And guess what? I freaking loved it. It has a lot of fun twists and turns. Like a good, mystery story should. All the characters are, like, terrible. All the characters who are, suspects are like terrible people, except for one of them who's our main character. She's this like immigrant from, I forget where she's from, but it's really not that important where she's from. Just the fact that she's like a poor immigrant and her mom is illegal, I guess, or whatever. But yeah, there's this whole big murder mystery of the guy who owned the house and all of his relatives, and then the immigrant girl who was his assistant nurse, that I think, personal nurse or whatever. And you kind of see everybody getting interviewed. You see everybody's sides of the story of how he died. And then everybody's arguing over who's going to get what in the will. They're doing like a will reading. There's a detective there, and he's figuring it all out. And it's interesting. It's not as cliche of a mystery story that you would think. Like they actually reveal how he died, how the guy died really early on in the movie. And you're like, wait, why would you reveal this already? I thought that was the mystery. But then as you go, there's more things that pop up, and you realize there's more to the story and more to the mystery than just how he died, the basics of how he died, and how he died. There's a little bit more interesting things. I don't know, it's just set up really well, and it's a really interesting kind of story building up. Interesting mystery building up, and you really don't piece it all together until the end. It's set up in a way where you could piece it together if you really, really think about it hard early on, but most people won't. I didn't really piece every little detail of it up together until the end. There's some good casting in here. Daniel Craig, aka the current James Bond, is the detective. and he talks in this weird southern like accent thing. I don't know, it sounds weird for him, but it's kind of funny. The movie actually does have some decent comedy bits here and there, actually, surprisingly. It sounded like it was going to be a more serious movie, but then like they had some decent comedy bits. I don't know. Other people like Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. She's a famous actor. If you don't know who she is, she was in the original Halloween when she was younger. She's like older now, obviously, because that was years ago. There's like the one guy, Chris Evans, an Avenger. Captain America's in this. Chris Evans is in it, and he's a really good character. All of them are good characters. All of them kind of add to the overall movie, the family dynamic of this like rich family, because their dad was rich, and so they all became rich. But they're all kind of terrible to each other, terrible and selfish, and except for the girl, the main character girl. And yeah, it's a good movie. Has a really, really, really satisfying conclusion that's just hilarious. I'm not really gonna spoil it because I feel like a lot of people didn't see the movie, so in case you want to see it, I'm not going to spoil anything really, so definitely go see it. It's not going to be in theaters anymore at this point, I don't think, but find a way to see it somewhere. I hope it's nominated for some Oscars. To be honest, it might not be. I honestly didn't see a lot of the other movies, so it's hard for me to say because I only saw 9 movies in theaters this year. I know, I'm a terrible movie critic. I haven't uploaded a movie review for almost a year. What a great movie critic I am. But anyways, those are all the movies I saw in the year 2019. Overall, I would say 2 of them I disliked. 1 of them I thought was whatever. 3 of them I liked. 3 of them I loved. My throat is killing me right now, so I want to stop talking, so I'll probably end the video. Hopefully my channel does good this year. I don't know what I'm doing. Probably more video projects. I'm also planning on doing that horror movie for next Halloween by the end of that year, the year here. So stay tuned for hopefully more on that. By then, I don't know. Maybe I'll fail at it again. Who knows? Thank you for watching my YouTube video. Goodbye.